store Gud, när jag den värld beskåda, som du har skapat med ditt håll.
My name is Linda Aho now. We moved in 1950 into this brand new house my husband had built, Raphael Aho, 1942. So we have been married for 72 years. I think that passed away. He was really we had a good marriage, 72 years. And I wouldn't mind being with you longer yet. Rachel was really good for me. He'd been watching me since I was like that. And I didn't know that. He went and asked my dad if he could come see me. And then Dad told Ma, and Ma asked me. But he was, I don't know, I'm getting silly. I knew that he'd been here around a long time. See, they rented this farm from my dad. They were doing the church, so they were all down. So he knew everything from me, how I was growing up. And he waited till I was 17. I went in the car, he sat me down. Linda, we should get married. I said, oh, I wasn't quite ready for that. But then I didn't know that. But people waited till, see, my dad, and they were 17. He said if it was another man, he would have said no. But he knew this boy or that family because they're working on it. But there was two more that were waiting, and one came to the house, but my sister said, "No, she's married," and the other one ran from West Coast, and said she's married. So they were too late. But I worked 18 and a half years in a turkey plant. My husband got up in the morning and he took me to meet my driver every morning, except Sunday. So we had a tough life for a while, but it was good. If we had any bad words or something, he asked forgiveness every night. You're the religious man. Believed in God, and so do I. I think God is still in control. Yeah, we had 20. They lost the two. The two last ones were stillborn. But they're beautiful boys. They showed me. I held them in arms. Yeah, we had one picture taken, and then we've had many pictures taken. We had one with the children first, and that was a nice picture. So I cherish that. And now they're giving for my birthday. I get more puzzles. I have about 100 of them. Yeah, because my daughter-in-law, she sends them always in big packages. But these puzzles that are cut up of my husband and me, they're kind of hard to do. I was small, but there are too many good memories. That's why it's hard for me. 95, yeah, October 1st. It's a, it's been good years, but I still miss my husband so much. My dad was from Viitasaari, Finland, and my mother was from Lake Norton, South Dakota. and and they worked in the mines. It was a beautiful wedding, but and they actually had a good life. They had 8 children, but I had 2 brothers, and they were 13 years old. My one brother shot one man. I saw him. He was 13 years old, and the next year, my other brother died of appendicitis and drops in the kidneys. So my mother and they had 2 tragedies, but they were brave too. My mother was 100 when she passed away. My brother was 101. Everybody's so good for me now. Now they've always been. That's my favorite. I've got 2 things: watching the birds and yeah, puzzles. I can crossword puzzles. No, they're jigsaw puzzles. I like all flowers. I like all flowers. Don't make it. I don't remember their names anymore, but I did a lot of. My husband liked flowers too, so we had. But he was a good gardener. I got lots of pictures of him. It's a big family, but I love them all. The boy that was born before the stillborn, I thought I cried because I said I'd never see him graduate from school because I'd be too old. Now he's a grandpa. It's a big family. But they've had so many get-togethers all the time, and they're good ones. And this now birthday was really good too, but it was a surprise. I didn't expect it. Yeah, we had lots of lots of people. I didn't have any idea they were doing it. They kind of forced me to go lay down, and I said I don't want to lay down. I would sleep that night, but there was a purpose for it. They wanted to get everything arranged in the kids, and I lay down for maybe I did go and take a nap. I'm not sure. And then they let me out, and the happy birthday right away. Everybody's. I have that long life cycle and my family. Christmases were pretty meager. I mean, you get anything. My my dad would go to my dad would go to town and and he'd go once a week. Like the cream check first, and then he'd get buy groceries. And the grocery store would give them one candy bag for buying groceries. And he came home. Each of the children got one candy bag, and then he had a cupboard he put in a pie. And no more candies until he gave us one apiece. Nobody went to scratch up that was different. And now we have a whole drawer full. Go check Grandpa's candy bag in there. It's always full. It's been always full now. My dad's sister had a boy and a girl. They'd bring some little bundles for Christmas, but we didn't. My dad never bought anything because he didn't have the money. But we didn't. We didn't miss it though. We had that one candy bag. We'd get one sometimes. I made 2 chickens every Sunday before church, and I thought I had enough for supper. But we always got people, and there was nothing left for supper. I enjoyed getting up early and making that and put the dressing in the turkey. I never worked turkey. I've worked 18 years in a turkey plant. I won't eat turkey yet. That's why I'm in a wheelchair, because of turkeys. Yeah, we had to stand on rubber boots and I make turkeys, cut the oil bags all the time, just thousands a day. But that's the way we live. That's where we got the money. I quit the barn when they brought in the milk machine, and then I was in the hospital when we got the milk machines, and then I started screaming in the hospital when I was sleeping, and I thought I was caught. They were gonna call. So I didn't go after they put the milk machines. I stayed in the house. They had some boys big enough to help them. But I enjoyed the barn too. We had old barn, and he brought me in there once and said he had to put a flat hay bale, but I make a major. He said, "That's my praying place." He showed me this. So he did a lot of prayer too. And we prayed for all our children. Then we have when they're all then there's no defect. Just Jake has wear glasses, and when he was getting glasses in Minneapolis, I had the youngest son in the hospital in Park Rapids, and and he came home from there, and I asked him, what's wrong with him? He had silent pneumonia, but he was in good hands. I was in Jeff was in the hospital in Minneapolis, and he was in the hospital in Park Rapids. But you go through that life. Everybody doesn't, but we did. His parents were Christian persons, and my parents were Christians too. So I never had any really. I've had a good life. He was so good to me, and I still miss him though. I've been to Finland 2 times, to Russia, Norway, and Sweden. I, somebody, somebody told my husband that you don't take your Linda anywhere. We came home, and he started. Then he started going, and we flew many times. But the way he learned to fly was kind of funny. We were in the West Coast, and my sons, and he made pancakes, and Dad liked them, so he got sick. So there was another van from here, Wolf Lake, Norman, and we had to go in the airplane to fly home. So that's where he learned sliding, and then he flew all the time. He didn't travel. He didn't like those motorhomes, and he just afraid that they were always taking pictures, and he was scared in the windows. We made a lot of trips. We drove in the motorhomes and the cars, and there when somebody said you don't take Linda anyplace, he wanted to show him this one. He's a good speaker and talker, so everyone like to listen to him. He's yeah, I can still hear him. He could he could really make the story true looking and he wasn't like me. I can't forget what I'm talking. But his parents were from Finland too. Yeah, but we went to Finland, saw the places where my father was born, and my mother was in South Dakota. So, but he was born in, and he left home when he was 17, and then he wanted to go once back to say goodbye. My mother was expecting her youngest daughter, baby. Old man quite couldn't, but he was a man you should have seen. Two brothers, and they said they made the money here. They had some kind of mission, but nobody's been able to find that machine in the woods. They looked, but he made some kind of fake money and he traded it into real money when he was going on. But he was a money man. He stayed many times at our house. 3 pennies, and I don't know why I showed him, but he took him, and I walked way up the highway, trying to get those pennies out of him, but no, he wouldn't give them. So I think he wanted to, how to use them. So I liked him, but I never saw his brother. There was two of them, and they made their own clothes. And we had that minister come. He said, and he's going to the bathroom. I mean, I would say toilet, and he went there, and one man came out, and then he just got. Then he went going back. Then another man came, and they were just like twins. They were twins. He said he couldn't believe it, and they were dressed in their Finland clothes. They made clothes.
In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost, let us pray. Most merciful and loving Lord, we thank you this day for a mother who has gave to us more than we could ever give to her. Lord, bless her for the rest of her life, and let her be a person whom we can always say that taught us well. Lord, we thank you that Mom and Dad both taught us and expected us to be good servants and stewards of the gifts that we have been granted. Lord, thank you. And we pray your gracious blessing on Mom this day. May the name of the Lord be blessed forever and ever. And may we always be grateful for the work of the gift of life that Mom gave to all of us.
Arms, I'm the oldest of the outlaws.
And I'm Pat, and I'm originally from New Hampshire. But, and I'm originally an Aho, too. Married an Aho.
Yeah, we had 9, got 8 living.
Yeah. And we lost one little boy.
I know my dad used to leave me home babysitting, and they went to Wolf Lake to the big place and had saunas there. We'd lock all the kids in a bedroom and clean the house. Then I'd let them out just before he came home, so they wouldn't mess up the place before they got home.
Or you made cookies in a huge big bowl.
Yeah, in a bread bowl.
Yeah. And they'd be gone in a flash.
Yeah, that was good chicken. We didn't have much money, but we didn't starve. Every Sunday, Dad would knock about 3 of them in the head. That's
You know, like our family, we have, you know, 8 living children. They're all married. And then we have 34 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren. So, and some of the families have twice that amount. You know, I just hope they continue to keep in contact somewhat with each other, because family is important. And it's nice that they can get together. I think even now, getting together for her 95th birthday is really special, especially 18 children coming, you know. It's kind of unheard of.
I know once my brother Will shot me with a BB gun. So I took it away and I shot at him and I hit the window, busted Dad, so Dad took the BB gun and busted it over his knee. So there's a lot of things that when you got a big family, well, yeah, but everything's went pretty smooth that year. Well, yeah, sometimes you go there and come home with nothing, and about the time you don't think you're gonna get anything, you come home with a limit of walleye. So.
For me, it was quite a change to come here and be a farmer's wife, because I lived out in the country, but farming where I was from wasn't real common, or if somebody farmed, it was just a small farm. So this farming out here was quite a change for me. Well, my dad was, we actually, when I say we didn't farm, my dad was a chicken farmer. Actually, we would have like 6,000 chickens at a time. And, but other than that, he worked construction. So I'm from a family of 9, 8 of my blood siblings, and then my mom and dad adopted a child too. We lived in kind of a rural area, but it was through the church that actually I met Armis. Our church had conventions throughout the country, and that's where a lot of us met our mates.
Well, I guess there's one thing that I do remember, that I was washing the car at the old barn, and I started backing up pretty fast, and I backed over Melvin, but he went underneath the car, so he didn't get hurt. We had to milk the cows by hand. I think I had to milk I'd get up in the morning about before school. It was dark yet, and I cleaned the barn with a wheelbarrow and milked my 3 cows, and then went to school. I think I smelled for barn, but
so did everybody else.
We put milking grease and milk the cows. There's probably about 15 in the barn, so a couple, 3 of the other girls or boys came, and we milked them and went to school.
I'm Will Hoish, they call me.
And I'm Diana.
I left pretty early for me, right out of high school. High school, I went in the service, and then I headed to the West Coast, I guess. Went for the railroads for a little while and worked for the railroad engineers, and out west. And I guess what we did is tried to make a living in surveying, but that didn't turn out, and took a shovel and started working in construction, and that's where we've been. But we go in the summertime, winter time we head to Florida for a couple months, and that kind of shortens the winters out here.
We went back and forth. We lived the first year, a little over a year here after we were married, then we moved back out west. Lived there for about 8 years, 9 years.
Like
and then
that.
moved back to Minnesota, milk cows. We're here for 8 years. Then went back to Washington. Was there for about 14, 15, and now we're back here again.
Wow.
It's kind of nice. We have something to do here. It's food plots, and we keep busy. Got to do something, or it gets tough. I don't remember too much about.
You could tell about your hunting experience when you went to the Blue Mountains with your cat.
No, I don't know
I
about.
don't think your mom heard about that one.
Well, we wanted to get up in the hills, so we took a little dozer up there and made our own road up there. But you can't do that anymore on government property. Well, they're part of the Cascades, aren't they?
Eastern Washington, Idaho. 11 children. We have 61 grandchildren and 26 great-grands at this point.
The church convention, I suppose.
1967.
1967, yeah. I worked at the University of Minnesota Hospital for a couple of years, and then we moved up here. Then I worked at the Menahga nursing home for like 20 years. Otherwise, I've been home since.
I did roofing construction when we got married. I was a farmer, so I had Tri-City Life for 3.5 years, and we're back on the farm now. So I did roofing in the cities, commercial roofing.
Yeah, I worked in the cities. Yeah, I lived in the cities for a couple of years before we got married too. So then we lived there for 3 years or so. Otherwise, our young kids are doing fine.
The grandkids, maybe.
Grandkids, yeah. Oh, no.
Yeah. It's a blessing.
Yeah.
It's a blessing.
Otherwise.
It's fun. Be with the family.
Well, I'll start by talking in Finn. Nämä puhuu sulle suomea, että et sinä ymmärrä. You can help. I said, I'm going to say something in Finn so you don't understand.
Finnish to each other when our kids were young because we didn't want them to understand or know what we were talking about.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, I grew up south of New York Mills. It's kind of Finn country down there too. So at a church gathering is what it was. I was in track with her oldest brother, Armus, and through Armus I found out that he had a sister. So that's kind of how that went about.
Yeah, that's about how it went. You know, he came in a group of girls there at the church meeting, and he said, "Which one of you girls want to go out with me?" And he said, nobody said anything, so he says, "Eeny, meeny, miny, mo." And Elena me and said, "Elmo, you want to go out with me?"
I had that planned ahead of time.
We have 7, and they're all married, and that's 30 grandchildren. Wow. So yeah, we've been blessed.
We have 5 out west that were adopted from Ethiopia, and then we have 2 in the cities that were adopted from Alabama. So we've got some dark-skinned Finlanders. So
they're just really cute and very nice grandchildren. Yeah.
Yeah, last night we were sharing that one story. Her older brother Wilho was in the service, and he got a love letter, and it was in his suitcase, and these girls went. It was a 7-page?
7-page long love letter.
And they went, 3 girls, they went and copied everything, made a copy, and they
copied it page by page. You take this page, you take this page. And so then we got it and put the letter back in the suitcase, and then we went to go and show it to all the relatives. My cousins. Yeah. They were who we were.
So there were all kinds of interesting stories. I don't think Grandma knew anything about that one. Remember, one of the older brothers got a spanking, and they planned this. Grandma and Grandpa planned this that we'll take and send all the kids outside, and we'll get Armus in the bedroom. We're going to give him a spanking. And I don't think you guys knew what was going on.
No, we didn't. But Miriam, she got some kind of a stool, and she went to peek in the window. And so she saw that he was getting a spanking, and so when it was done, well, my dad said, "Don't you go telling anybody." And the first neighbors that came over, she said, "Did you know I was got a spanking?" So then it was a chase too. Miriam was really fast. My dad tried to get a hold of her, and she just kept running around the table. Oh, it was fun growing up. There was always somebody to play with, and we had ball games and just different things and cousins came over, so we had a good time. I mean, I was born on that big farm in Wolf Lake, but then my parents moved when I was about 2 years old.
In
I think it's
1950,
1950.
they moved up here to Hillview.
Yeah.
He bought Linda's home place, and that's where they farmed. And
Country school, we had all kinds. I went 5 years in a little country school that was a mile down the road. And I remember Wilho, he put together a bike because we were kind of poor. We didn't know it, but none of us had bikes. So he got pieces from different places and he put it together and drove it to school. And he got there and he realized he didn't have any brakes, but it was too soon. He ran right into the schoolhouse wall, cement wall, and it fell apart. Yeah. So that's one of my memories. And being I was the fourth, I kind of remember quite a bit about Wilho and Armis in country school. They wanted to every Friday we had what was called Art Day, and there was a jigsaw so they could make these little shelves and knickknacks, and it was supposed to be Wilho's turn to use the jigsaw first, but Armis decided he was older, so he was the boss, and so then Wilho took off and went home. Took off, he got mad and went home. So.
I'm Glenn Mersu.
My wife. Your wife?
Now you guys introduce yourself.
Miriam Mersu.
Do you want to start explaining and I'll interrupt in the proper times?
Elma and Jim. Jim
her older sister
was married to his cousin, second cousin.
Yeah, Jim.
Yeah, he came up and he tried to get me to come church up there because there was a guy that was available, and I said, I'm not going to New York Mills. Those guys are so shy. No way in the world I'm going up there. And I tried and I wouldn't go. So Jim went up to him in church one day and said,
I think he actually called me on the phone. See, I got a service in February of '74. So I started going to home church in Mills there, and then I think he called me on the phone.
I thought he was another
asked me, are you looking for a wife? Well, single guy, you're always looking, So he gave me her number. I'm not sure if I called you that night, same night or not.
No, you went home.
Oh, I know what I did. Yeah, okay.
I knew his brother. I didn't know he was.
Yeah, I had a brother, Steve, and he knew Miriam.
The same age.
Yeah, they're the same exact, they graduated the same year. So I asked Steve, I said, hey, do you know this Miriam Maho? So the plat books years ago, all the families had their pictures in there, see. So he went and dug out the plat book, and he found their family picture, Well, she's sitting right in the front, and I said, oh man, that's the best looking one of the bunch, All the kids are lined up in the back. So anyway, I'm not sure if I called you right away or...
Doug, you know what else he told you? She won't use birth control.
That's right. Yeah.
I thought that was kind of fun.
So anyway, I'm not sure how quick I called you, but then she invited me for popcorn. She lives in Menahga. She had a roommate there, Barb. And I got there and...
You asked to go,
Well, we had popcorn there and then...
Well, I burned
popcorn. Was it that same night I asked? Or was it later on if I go to church?
No, you asked me if we wanted to go out to eat or if you could come over, and I thought, well, you can come over. I want to see what you are before I go anywhere. So I just made you popcorn, and I know I burned it even, but that was okay. Then when he left, my roommate said, well, you don't take him, I'm going to take him. And then you didn't call for a long time, and everybody thought, we were seeing each other, all teasing us, and I said, I haven't seen hide or hair of him. Then all of a sudden, New Year's Eve, they had a gathering up at the church, And he came with his cousin.
Yeah.
And at a
Two-
skating party, and my girlfriend said, that guy's got an eye on you. And in those days, you just had the dial phone. And you picked up if it rang. So I said, I ain't going to stay home. I took off all weekend, and he called me Mondays. Where you been all weekend, And he asked if he could come over again and if he could go to church with me. And I just thought, oh, man, church? I mean, how do you turn a guy down that wants to go to church? But in our church, you went to church with a guy, and that was very serious. I mean, I've seen this guy once, And so I said, well, yeah, come on over. I'll fix you lunch. And then we went to church. And my dad turned around 3 times because we sat there. And he looked, and he calls me up afterwards. And he said, Miriam, is that guy a Christian? And I said, Dad, I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? That's the most important thing there is. And, well, I don't know. I just met, he was just shocked that I'd be sitting in church with him, So then.
All your relatives are sure they must have been dating all along.
Yeah, they just thought we'd been fooling him the whole time. And I hadn't.
Yeah.
And so then he asked, he said, well, you want to see a pastor?
That was that must have been about 74, wasn't it?
Yeah, 74.
We got married in December 75, December 13th. She wanted to have a red and white on Valentine's, but we decided moving up to Christmas. So
One reason I moved at Christmas, he was a farmer. I'd always said I wasn't going to marry a farmer. I knew how much work it was, but I had a 10-year break from it. And I thought, marry a farmer. And then the only reason I moved it, because I wanted the red and white. But then I knew how broke those farmers were, and I figured if we got married in December, I'd get more money back from my taxes.
Good.
I mean, that's, I could still have the same color.
How about the mustache?
Oh, jeez.
Her dad had a mustache.
My dad had a mustache, and I hated it. I'd shave it as much as I could, and I'd look at him, and I said, how can you ever kiss something like that? Dad, how can you do that? Night before the wedding, Dad comes, is he going to shave that thing underneath his nose? He didn't forget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but I asked him, I said, well, why didn't you call again, I hadn't seen it. That was a long time. It was in the fall, and this was at New Year's Eve, and he said, well, it's easy to call the first time. It's the second time. You don't want to get a no answer. Well, I figured Elma married a guy from Mills, and he was so shy. It took him, how many years? Once in a blue moon, they'd go. And then Ellen married a guy from New York Mills. Oh, he was so shy, too. Then there was they were all so shy. I thought, I'm not gonna let go of somebody like that they're so shy. I told him he's gonna do his own dirty work. I wasn't about to go to church there, but I was shocked to have a guy from Mills call. I mean, I was floored. So we have 4 kids now: Peter, Knut, Judy, and Maggie. Maggie's our the youngest.
people ask me, how old are your kids? I said, well, you do the math. I know the birthdays, but 76, 78, 80, and 87. So you figure out how old they are.
Oh, I wanted to go to school when I was 5 years old. The other 4 ahead got to start when they were 5. I had to wait till I was 6. So one day, it was in the wintertime, I dressed up David, who's a year and a half younger than me, and we walked about 1.5 miles to school. Mom was washing clothes in the basement, and I could find no mittens, so I took a pair of socks and put them on his hands, and we walked there and knocked on the door. I was so excited, and they came and brought us in and set us in the back of the row, but she put our coats high up on the hook. It was a country school, and a little while later, there's another knock. It was my mom. She had one of those Aunt Jemima diapers on her head, Oh, and boy, I ran to that cook call, pulling that coat, and ran ahead of her all the time. She was stopping at the willow tree, but she didn't. ran around the table for a while. She had to go do some more clothes, and she said, "Wait till Dad comes in. You're gonna get a spanking." I spent the rest of the day underneath Mom and Dad's bed. You know, those boards underneath there, and it was dark. Dad came in from chores, and he came and told me, "Come out of there." And I was scared to death. You know, I thought, "Oh, shoot, and get a nice spanking." And he said, "I think you've suffered enough." And he didn't spank me. You know what? That was worse than getting a spanking. I wasted the whole day down there. You know? And I'm sure everyone's told you that David and Miriam were the fighters. We fought all the time, you know, but I always got to go along with Dad. And I think it was Mom needed peace and quiet in the house, you know, because I would, you know, fight with them. I mean, we're buddies, but always fighting, so. And then my older sisters would get upset because when we take off then to go somewhere, I got to go then too. And they say, if she gets to go, we're going to stay home. But I spent a lot of time underneath Dad's armpit because he'd always protect me because they'd be so much after me, you know. She can still again, but otherwise, yeah.
Dairy farm down there for 31 years, and our oldest son took over then now. So he's farming the home place.
Yep, I did teaching preschool, and now I'm doing massage full time. Milk cows with him for that year. So.
Cool.
So, yeah, I don't know. Otherwise, life's been good. Got a good man.
Mm-hmm.
No complaints.
2 boys, 2 girls, and 18
grandkids.
grandkids, yeah.
I'm David, and this is my wife, Wanda. By the way, there is 2 Wanda Ahos.
You will meet her.
You will meet her.
She's younger.
Younger, okay.
She looks like she could be my daughter. Maybe.
That might be a little troublesome for me.
No, well, yes.
When is our anniversary? Is
October 6th, and we were born in married in 1974. So that will make 46 years on October 6th, if I counted right.
Yeah.
And I believe that is. And
the whole time has felt like 5 minutes underwater. No, that's joking. No, it's been a beautiful wife, marriage.
And I married into an awesome family. Loved my mother-in-law, loved my father-in-law.
And vice versa with her parents too.
Yeah.
First off, I'd just like to say something about my mother, which I told her already over there, but I had to be a little careful with so that didn't misunderstand me. She didn't have to tell me. I knew I was the favorite one. So the rest of the crew, don't take it wrong. She made everybody feel like that. That was my mother.
Great mother, yeah.
And I can't really. My mom was that way that she would always say if we were in trouble or in mischief or anything like that, Dad will take care of it when he gets here. So she always backed my father, my dad. He did most of the discipline. She didn't really discipline us in that way, but she would always say, when Dad gets home, you'll get it.
All of the children respect both their mom and dad, and all of us as spouses, you know. We respected them very much. Always felt loved and welcome in their home, and there was always plenty to eat. And I'm sure all the grandkids, if you see this, remember the candy drawer. I know our children who are already married, and we have our own grandchildren, but definitely the older ones remember the candy drawer. Yeah, Grandma and Grandpa's, and
Actually, how we met.
Well, we met first time when I was very
young.
Our
relationship became serious. I was in a car accident in Schenectady, New York. And it was about 3.5 hours from New Hampshire, where she was from. We were driving here. And one of my friends that was in the vehicle ended up in the hospital there, and he was there for a month. Was it 5 weeks?
5.5 weeks, I think.
And so I stayed there with him at the hospital. And they came as a group of kids from New Hampshire to New York to visit me, during that time. And that's when we got to know each other.
Come from the same church background, so we would have like an annual convention. The first time I actually met or saw David, I was only 13 years old. We got married. I was only 18. He was close to 23. So, but we started dating when I was 17 at that time of the accident, which would have been right around this time of the year, October. And we were married the following October. And the rest is history. We have our own 8 children and 12 grandchildren right now. And it's been a good life. I've been blessed to be part of this family. They've actually had quite a few of these family reunions through the years, so we've watched from the first pictures where we looked pretty young to today where I'm like, oh, what's happening? We're all on the other.
Starting to come in with canes
and walkers and
walkers. Part of life. We're moving on.
Yeah.
I guess it's time for us to take the torch,
Yeah, pass it on and just to, the most important thing, and it's the thing that David was taught as a child, and I certainly was that we know our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and that's our prayer for everyone that watches this. Or God only knows how many will see it. It's a tough world. There's a lot of tough things out there, especially now. But hang on, because Jesus loves each and every one in this whole world. He created us, and he has a home beyond this life, and where already Grandpa is, and David's father, and both my mom and dad, and life is eternal in him. So there is no end. And we're thankful for that heritage, and it's for everybody, that whosoever will. Love
conquers all.
Love conquers all, and God is love. So.
My name is Jacob Milton Aho. I came back from Washington in 2011. I was substitute teaching and was an administrator in a small school, and then I came here to take care of Dad and Mom. Mom was pretty poor at that time, and then Dad got really sick. 2014, I think he passed away. But I took care of them, both of them, for quite some time. Well, it's a normal situation. You have ones that are closer than others, and of the family, because you got 18, you're not close to every one of them. But we have our good days and we have our not so good days, but we try to live in the spirit of love and forgiveness. We had some nice Christmas times. We had a lot of nice Christmas time. We also had a big family, and we had people coming and going out of here. We were in the middle of the United States, so we'd have a lot of company here from all over the United States and from Europe. We were kind of a dropping spot for people from Finland, especially. They wanted to come here, and they'd visit. We got to know a lot of the people from Finland, and we got to know a lot of the people on the West Coast and East Coast, and now we've got a lot of people have moved to the Carolinas, so they've come here, and it has changed. At one time, we had a lot of company. We still have a lot of company, but when Dad was living, this place was every day you had company coming and going, and it's not quite that way today, but it sure was about 6, 7 years ago. It was just a lot of company, but going back to childhood, we had people many times. You'd come home I came home. Well, when I come to the house, you'd never know how many people you had. And there'd be all kinds of activity back and forth. We had cousins, and we had a lot of time with our cousins. North of here, about 12, 13 miles. Yeah, we played quite a few games, and we had touch football and some baseball, some softball, and whatever. And it was basically Sunday afternoon. We had a lot of fun. Mom and Dad were a couple that enjoyed being hospitable. That was their gift. They had people here all the time. They fed them. They entertained them. I don't know how they put up with it. I just simply don't know how they did it. But that was a trait that has been pretty much put down in almost every member of the family. There's some form of hospitality that was somehow ingrained into every family member's head, that you need to entertain and you do the best you can, even if you're not very good at it. It's a typical type of family where there is a lot of joshing back and forth, and you have to learn how to take all that in stride, still smile and say, that's the way it is, and not get too upset. You may be mad as hops about something for a little while, but then somehow the Spirit of the Lord says, that's not quite appropriate. Let's work this out. We have our own ways of saying, you're forgiven, and off we go. It may be that there's a good spat and everybody looks at each other and says, well, maybe it's time to go fishing. Off we go.
I work in home health care. I've just done that for the last couple of years, but I worked at a hospital for last 14 years before that in food and nutrition. And I did that for quite a few years. And I'm retired, but I work still full time doing whatever, I'm the 8th child, deprived child, the middle child. Yeah, I have 8 children, 22 grandchildren, and 1 great-grandchild. I think I might have been first or second grade and got those stretch pants that came out that year. Now they wear them all the time, those leotards. But I got a pair when I was in first grade. And for some reason they were brand new, but they were wrinkled. And I figured I'd iron them. And I took and I put the hot iron on them. And I made one big iron hole on them. And I never got to wear them. And I never told anybody that I ruined my Christmas gift. They were black ones, and they were just like leotards. That was a thing you could wear, and they went out of season, and now they're back into season. Now everybody wears them, and I wanted a pair, and I got a pair for Christmas, but I didn't want to tell anybody that I never got to wear them because I burnt a hole in them right off with a hot iron. No, I think our memories as far as Christmas was, we couldn't wait till Dad would get in from the barn because we had to wait till he got all the barn chores done. And then we usually had supper later, and then we stayed up all night long playing games. Monopoly we usually get for Christmas. I remember my aunt and uncle would bring us a laundry basket full of Spanish peanuts was one of the things in there, and there was a lot of other things that they would, give us. And it was chocolate, those curly candies, ribbon candy, and something that we never had the money to buy. So they would give us that as a Christmas gift. Goods, like there was coffee in there, there was Brazil nuts, which we never got before, Spanish peanuts, there was apples, which there's only one kind of apple, and that was delicious apples. Sometimes there's oranges. So we got the best kind of food, a lot of good food at Christmas time. And then we could stay up all night long and play the games. And then I remember one year Santa Claus came and here, and I think he was drunk, and he didn't stay too long. Yeah, he wasn't doing too good that night. But I was pretty young, and I do remember that, And that's the only time I remember Santa Claus ever coming to the house, was that night, So my brother Jake was in the same class as me. He went to school one day, and he got to the lunch area there, and he sat down on the bleachers, and the teacher came up to him, and he says, "Jake, you must have been in a hurry to get dressed this morning." He says, "Why?" He says, "Because you got two different shoes on." And he says, "You got two different shoes on?" "Oh my goodness." He says, "I didn't know that." So he called my dad. It's 14 miles, and Dad says, he called him and told him to come here and pick me up. "I need to come home right now." And Dad says, "What do you need?" He says, my dad told me, he says, "If you got them on now," he says, "I'm not coming to get." He said, "You need to come get me now." And he says, "No." He says, my dad wouldn't come 14 miles to come pick him up, So anyway, I remember Jake coming home. He never got a ride back home. He had to come home with those two different shoes on. But Melvin teased him. He says, "Well, Jake had to get a new pair of shoes because that one pair of shoes didn't fit him. But that shoe went on this morning, no problem." I do remember washing my hair almost every morning before I went to school. I don't know why I had to wash my hair every morning in the sink. Usually went to school with frozen hair in the wintertime. And there was always somebody at this picture window watching. We never were at the mailbox waiting. We always ran all the way to the mailbox. Somebody at the stop sign could see when the bus was coming, and the whole crew would go. So there was 12 of us going to school, and I was a senior. And we were the same bus driver for all those years. And I slept quite a bit on the school bus. That was kind of our routine, to sleep on the bus. I think we were on over an hour and a half, at least an hour to school. I remember it was after 7:15, 7:20, something like that. And got to school probably 8:45 or something like that. A lot of the dirt roads we were on and stuff. We were the first ones on and the last ones off.
I actually had a cousin living in Wolf Lake, Minnesota, and I came out to church conventions, and then I went up to visit her, and she says, why don't you stay out here?" So I lived with them for a year and worked on a dairy farm with her husband, and she was a first cousin to me. And so I lived there.
Her husband was a first cousin to me.
Yeah, and so they were pretty close. So anyway, I lived here, and then I got to know her, and then we were dating and whatever, and then 2 years, I lived there for 2 years, Minnesota, in this area, and then we got married in 1975. 7 girls and 1 son. So they're all married now. All 8 are married, and we've had 6 weddings. 2 daughters got married together, a double wedding at home. I'm done with this wedding stuff because
2 weddings at home.
Yeah, 2 weddings at home, and it's quite the undertaking. Especially when you have, like, what was it, 500-600 people at one of the weddings. When you're young, you have the energy. When I think about it now, a lot of things we did, you just wouldn't want to do them now. But when you're young, it's amazing what you can do, because you just have more energy and drive. You start getting a little older, it's like, I don't know if I feel like doing that. You can still do a lot of things, but it's just, you don't have that's why it's designed so that children are raised when you raise children when you're younger, because you can never do it when you're older. That's how God designed it, It's pretty amazing. Yeah.
Oh, my sister Sarah said she remembers me, and I do remember doing this quite a bit. You know, we get the Sunday paper. We always got the Sunday paper. And she was, she said I was, maybe she said this to me already. I don't know if she did or not, but she said, I remember I was doing this a lot. And company would come over, or anybody would come over, and I'd be behind the newspaper like this, and I would kind of smirk or make a face like, you know, and so everybody would be laughing, and I would keep seriously, you know, and then everybody would, you know, I never got the blame for it, you know, but I could keep a straight face behind that newspaper and turn around and go, you know, and then just do this, and so I do remember doing that one.
And she's good at keeping a straight face. That's what she does something. She's very good at that. She's done many pranks on people, more than you never know. And she's good at holding a straight face and acting like she's dumb. She's never done anything. You know, I mean, like, for instance, my first cousin and her are good friends. So she was going in the post office. So she climbs in the back seat of her car and lays on the floor, on the back seat in the floor, and she comes out of the post office and gets in their car, and then she reaches. What did you reach over?
I reached over and I grabbed the back of her neck.
She didn't know. Stuff like that, just endless. You could go endless with stuff that she's pulled like that. Or me, crawl into bed and you don't know what's under the covers, coat hangers and whatever. And one night I got into bed and there was a coat hanger in there, just a wired coat hanger. I crawled in and what in the world is this? Like, it was dark and I just swung it like that and I caught her right in the eye with the hook part of it right here. I said, now you're paying. Okay, I didn't get her eye.
Ripped my eyelid. So I was close to losing my eye just by doing just a little prank. I mean, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah,
you know?
a little prank. Or hiding in the closet when I come into the bedroom and jump out of closets or.
I didn't really do anything with dating.
Yeah, right. Then she'll put, like, she's in bed and sleeping in bed and pillows and all like that. She's sleeping there and she's in the closet peeking, see what I do. And just endless, you know, stuff like that she's on. So she's an aho. And ahos are known for this kind of stuff. You know, I mean, she's not the only one, prankster. There's plenty of them in this family, but she's one of the tops. You can imagine what happened in that house. I mean, I remember when I lived there at their place, and she was living in New York Mills at her sister's babysitting. So I was living at the home place and her dad would go up in the morning and with a nail, and those boys wouldn't get out of bed to do the chores, so he'd scratch their bottom of their feet with a nail, so they'd jump out of bed. Well, one morning they went into there was another house just down the road, an old house, and the boys would just sleep in that old house. Armis had bought the land and everything. So the boys slept there. So he got disgusted. They went over there and threw water on them that one morning. The boys came out of there swinging. And we had to tackle them actually to stop the boys from beating on their dad. This is the kind of stuff I had to deal with dating her. And before I even dated her, went to Miriam's apartment and I was sitting there and she says, hey, you want some coffee? She tells me. I said, yeah, I'll have some coffee. So she goes and takes a little bit of cold coffee, and then she puts a bouillon cube in there for soup, mixes that around, puts some cream in there, mixes it around. It's cold. So she brings it to me, and I take one sip, and it's like Campbell's soup. So she flies in the bathroom and locks herself in the bathroom. Or sometimes she said, hey, you guys want some Mountain Dew? Well, she'd take my can, shake it all up like this. I pull the thing and right to the ceiling. That's the kind of stuff I have to deal with.
That's nothing, though.
But that's the kind of life I've had to live with. So it keeps it interesting, and that's what keeps marriage going, you know. Yeah, and it's kind of a good thing because you keep a good relationship going, you know. You know, not that I've done a few things to her, but she's way ahead of me by 1,000-fold, you know.
I have no problem keeping a straight face. I have hope.
You know, the Aho family is been really good to me. I mean, and they're givers. You know, they've been real giving people all the way from her dad and mom. You know, her mom, it was amazing to me is that she bore 20 children full term, and she worked for quite a while at Swift's Turkey Factory in Detroit Lakes for many, many years.
16 years, I think.
Yeah, and then having all those children, and then another great thing about her mom was that no matter who, it was a daughter-in-law or whoever's children needed care for babysitting or whatever, she would never refused anybody. It's a great family. Yeah. Yeah, it's a big family. It's a great family, and they've been blessed in a lot of ways. 18 still living. It's a miracle in itself, because many families with that many are missing. You know, just like a family I grew up with. Just in the last year or so, they last two. You know, one of the boys I grew up with, kind of, and the older brother, they just lost them. One to cancer and one to something, you know, getting hurt and whatever. But it just amazes me that they're all still living. We're all here. You know, it's just so many things. It's cancer or accidents or this or that, but it's a blessing they're all still here.
They were, from what I'm told, they were real an active bunch.
Yeah.
And they
And Willie was chasing me with a cow's tail. He came in with a big cow's tail. I jumped on the blackboard, jumped back down on an open coffee can, slipped my foot, still a big scar. I had to take me to the doctor. First time, I think. I don't know, maybe somebody had gone. Oh yeah, somebody must have gone before me.
So that kind of tells me that they weren't well behaved.
I had like 7 or 8 stitches. What was it? I had really strong feet on the bottom because we were outside all the time barefoot, in the cornfield and everywhere. I don't know.
Wow.
But yeah, I remember that pretty well.
Hard to imagine.
Having
18. Well, some of them probably were gone.
Yeah, I didn't really know Arnis very well when I was growing
Yeah.
up. He was gone pretty much.
But that's a full house.
Yeah.
And the house is not, at that time, it was not
No,
big.
yeah. We didn't have
It wasn't a
addition.
huge house.
Yeah.
So it's an amazing story.
Excitement all the time. We always had a football team, a basketball team, a
Yeah, well, they had
baseball
2
team.
baseball teams if they were all there.
What's funny about that?
I'm asking you.
As far as I'm concerned, we met at your sister's wedding.
Yeah. March 17th, 1984.
Her sister married a friend of mine. I stood at the wedding, and she stood and we met there. So. The wedding was in Portland, Oregon. I think I pretty much shared everything that I don't have very many. I don't have a very big bucket list anymore. Okay, it's pretty much been fulfilled. So as far as, you know, in a personal way, that way, as far as my dad, that was close and complete, and when he passed on, and oh yeah, it's part of being a teenager. I guess it was. It was kind of a cool little thing, but we lived kind of a sheltered life. So in some ways, you know, some did more than others. So it was more family and so on and so forth. Our communication was pretty much with that. Everything was done pretty much communally as far as the family, all the field work. And so there's always was cousins and aunts, uncles, and there were always, you know, equipment was shared, and, you know, a lot of the works and all the tasks was a lot of done together. It was so growing up. So most of our time, rather than spending it where we went to school and with their buddies in school and that kind of stuff, it was always with family. So that's kind of the mid circle that took place, which was great life. It was nothing it was pretty sheltered and protected and looked after. I mean, we knew how to get in trouble too. It was pretty innocent. Yeah, it is just kind of unfortunate that there's, you run across great nieces and great uncles, okay, and great nieces and nephews, and you just by resembling that they got to belong somewhere in your family, that you sometimes kind of knock on their shoulder to ask who they are. So, because there's so many hundred of them, and you get spread. But it is kind of the cycle of life. You watch your own immediate family, and it just keeps getting reduced in some way because it grows to the point you can't stay in the whole thing. And you kind of set out to make your own lives like, I think like the Lord asked you to do. So, I think stories are still to be made. There was a traveling pastor preacher that would show up kind of half and unannounced, and they'd set up a quick, service, a lot of times a home service, and he'd put a little announcement in the paper. But he was actually quite a character, okay, so his voice was very distinct.
So he's always imitated him.
And so everybody always imitated him because it was just, it goes deeper than just a story, and there are stories. But I left here in 1975 in January. I was 17 years old. She left when we were 17 from Arizona as well. But we both had similar experiences that way, that we took out to see what this world had to offer at a young age. And that would probably be run into one of the better stories that I have. Is, picked everything I had in one of them black bags. It was a garbage bag. It might have been double Y. I don't know if it was a hefty or not. Anyway, I was about a junior in high school. And I asked my dad, I said, how many cows are you going to add on in the barn if I stayed? And he looked at me and he said in Finn, he said, Sineet o elokamies, which means you're not a cattle man. And so I left a little early. And I don't know that quite influenced it, but it was probably about as good a story in my life. But working with family, had the good fortune, and the Lord is blessed to be able to buy a lot of the property that we farmed as a child, kid, and in them days when you were, I've said it before, if you were big enough, if you were big enough to steer a tractor, you could do a man's job. They put you on a rock wagon and you do. But as soon as you were big enough to pick a rock as big as your head, somebody else took your spot and then you picked rocks. Okay. We were a close family spiritually in many ways. There's some hardships that were going through the whole family and church type of thing. And it was a kind of a dark age in the 60s. The Vietnam War was going on. The riots were going on. People were shot. Assassinations were there. And so it was kind of a gloomy time in some ways. But it was a pretty spiritual time in a sense too. And there was a lot of, like tonight, even singing How Great Thou Art and some of the stuff. It was music in the own family. It was sometimes if there wasn't enough gift to have a message, there was enough gift to sing. Well, you'd sing those songs and you remember very vividly, you're 12, 13, 14 years old, when thou art calling, do not pass me by. It's like, I'm 63. The Lord hasn't forsaken me. He hasn't left me. He's honored those prayers and those songs and those things for all these years, the faithfulness of the Lord. This is kind of a church to me. They come in this area and see how good the Lord has been. I'm a grandchild of Jacob Bajo. I never met him. But just seeing what he did and how he built his home and how he built his farm and how he read and how he dealt with his neighbors and the stories that I heard and the testimonials I heard. And it was literally, he built his house. It was a big house, almost as big as this. And wasn't necessarily for show. He did it nice, but it was to serve. And it was a nursing home. It was an orphanage. It was a church. It was a hospital. Several of the siblings were actually, I believe, born there. Late 1890s and early 1900s. There's some tough times in there when they were carving out a living on with a sharp axe and 40 acres of homestead property. And it's great mentorship, great heritage. Never heard any neighbor or anybody have a bad testimony about him. And one of the nicest stories I love to hear about him, and I heard it on the West Coast. 1936 was one of the driest years, the Dust Bowl years. You've heard about them. Well, Minnesota, it wasn't as bad, especially not like Wolf Lake. They had a lake. Well, the lake actually went dry, and so they could make hay off of that lake. And hay was about all you needed to do to maintain cattle. Most people lost all their cattle and they didn't get it. But he had two neighbors come at the same time. And one neighbor said, I need some hay and I've got money to pay. And the other neighbor said, I need some hay, but I have no way to pay. He looked at the man that had money. He said, there's a neighbor down the road that has hay for sale. The man that didn't have no money, the boys loaded up the wagons and brought him hay. He sold a cow in Menahga one time, and which is 25 miles away. And about a year later, he seen him in town. He said, how did that cow work out for you? He said, well, it died. He said, come get another one.
My name is Murph. Actually, Mark is their birth name. And everybody's called me Murph since I was probably 7 or 8 years old. Matter of fact, I think Mel started it. So,
My name's Sherry. They all had nicknames. So you may have had a given name, but that didn't always mean anything.
boy, that would have been about 78.
76. Met him in 76 after he graduated. He moved to New Hampshire. So, and he stayed for 40 some years.
Wow.
I saw him first at a church convention up in
Grand
Rapids, Minnesota. I don't know that he saw me, but I saw him.
Well, I'll leave that comment to myself.
We have 7 children. 7 children, and 3 girls and 4 boys. They do not live here in Minnesota, so we came here about 3.5 years ago, and we live with his mom, and I do the daytime taking care of her, and we're back staying in his old bedroom when he was a little boy.
Good or bad or different.
Yeah.
Well,
She is a sweet mother-in-law. She's been a very good example of what a mother-in-law should be. Yeah. He is a twin. Mark is a twin with Julius, the only set of twins in the family. Number 11 and 12.
I was in construction out east. I was putting basically red iron out, structural steel.
Yeah, I was a stay-at-home mom until all of a sudden the fellow that was working in their office, that ran the office, he died of a heart attack just one night, just like that. And so I went into the office, and so the last, I don't know, maybe 10 years or so, not even. It was between 8 and 10 years that I did kind of part-time in the office. We hired another girl to come in to do the computer work. I'm not so tech savvy. So, and neither was he. He was just pretty much strictly out in the field and worked right with the men. So in the office wasn't really his cup of tea.
Well, for the last, I'd say, close to 10 years, I was in the office.
Yeah, it
pretty
was
much all
more
the time.
to do with the doing the drawings and the bidding.
My relationship with Mom, I would say, was, it's pretty to the point that it was like I didn't have no questions. Both Mom and Dad, I love them dearly, so I respect them very well, or a lot.
Yeah,
So.
They have high respect. I think you'll find that pretty much across the board with the family. They have high respect of her. I know the boys sometimes will talk and they think their mom's an angel. So I don't know if she has said anything to you in the interviews, but they did have 20 children. She did say that, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the last 2 were stillborns, and that was tough on her. So
that's something that you can't recognize unless you've gone through it yourself. We had that. We did have an experience on that too. So.
And it was actually a twin that we lost, full term, and the one lived and one did not. So we've actually had 8 children. Had to bury one. It lives with you for the rest of your life, yeah. Uh-huh.
The child that I never knew taught me the most about life. So it's an experience that you really can't explain. It's one of the things that you have to experience to go through, and if they've gone through it, then you know what it is. So, but it was, I wouldn't change it. So.
And you for sure hope and pray your children don't have to go through it, or wouldn't want it to see anyone else go through it. But
it's not a bad thing.
It's not. It's not the worst.
It seems really a lot worse than what it. There's a whole different dynamics that comes with it. So the Lord is there. You recognize it, and His hand is there.
Their family gets crazy at midnight telling stories. They can get so hilarious. And of course, if you're sleep deprived, they are laughing before they even reach the punchline, and their tears running down their face. We're laughing so hard. But that's when you get the funny stories. When he was younger, the cows were not his thing, really his thing. But he'd wake up in the morning, and his dad always took their mom, because she worked over in Detroit Lakes, and he would take her to where she'd meet a couple of other ladies that then they'd drive into work together. But he had to bring her to a certain spot to drop her off. Mark would have to get up in the morning. His dad would give him a ride down to the corner. He'd have to go get the cows and bring them to the barn in the morning. That was kind of his job. But he had it set up. He loved sports at school. So he would do work in the barn in the morning, and his twin brother would do the stuff at night. So he could do the sports after school. They had it figured out.
Julius, it'd be my wife Terry. Get up in the morning and go to school, milk cows first, go to school, and that's about.
Did you go to Martha's store a lot?
Yeah, go to Hillview and
buy candy.
Buy candy, lots of candy. Yeah, there's a little them licorice pipes, black licorice pipes. Got a lot of them. So, yeah. I sell cars in New York Mills. Been there for just about 20 years now.
Oh gosh, yeah.
It's about 20 years. I milked cows before that. Tried to build a few houses, but I'm not a carpenter, so.
Mechanic work.
Mechanic, and some mechanic work. I can do a little of that. And I like to make firewood. So.
And mow lawns.
And mow lawn.
He was almost put in the hospital last summer. Health issues. They put him on some medicine. The doctor called that later that afternoon, he was out mowing the lawn. She couldn't believe it. I met him on an airplane going to a church convention in New Hampshire. That's when we were first introduced by a mutual friend. Then I didn't really talk to him again until like 4 years later at least. Yeah. And he couldn't quit pestering me to go for coffee, so finally gave in, went for coffee.
Here we are.
Here we are.
17.
5 kids, 17 grandkids. Yeah.
I am number 13 of the children. Dad always told me that he went to the bank on the April 1st when I was born and told the banker, and the banker didn't believe it. He had his 13th child. He could remember that day, what the weather was. He told me everything, but I am number 13. I live in South Carolina with my husband. I worked for the Postal Service for almost 18 years, and I got out of that, and currently I am a barista in a coffee shop. Just working 30 hours a week and kind of, but we have 22 grandchildren, 9 children, and they all live close proximity of us, so we get together a lot. I actually am of the girls, I got married the youngest. I just turned 19 on April 1st and got married on April 15th, so I was the youngest girl to get married after. A lot of fun here. I am between, I got 3 brothers ahead of me and 1 brother after me, so I was kind of ran around a lot as with them. Mom worked. I was, I believe, in about 8th grade when I took over being the oldest daughter here, oldest girl, and so we learned how to cook and clean and wash the clothes in the wringer downstairs and hang them on the line, and we learned how to make the meals at night. With Dad, he would work with us if he had to take the hamburger out during the day, and we'd have hamburger for supper, or he'd put a roast in for us at whatever 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and we'd come home and make the suppers at night, and because Mom didn't usually get home till past 5, 6 o'clock before she got home, so the oldest daughter just kind of moved up the rank, and then the year after I graduated, then Mother quit work, so everything was provided for us. We had big gardens. We loved it. I loved it. Yeah. Sundays we always went to the big farm, which is my aunts and uncles in Wolf Lake. That was a big thing. We went. That was a highlight to go there every Sunday, and then all the cousins got together, and whatever we did, play ball, or that was fun. It was a good life. It really was. Hard work. Yeah, hard work. We had to pick the rock and bale the hay, but it was a good life. If all the kids would remember this, was that the upstairs had a big closet in the middle landing up there, and it was full of clothes. And a senior in high school, I emptied that, but she doesn't know where I sent it all to. I'm sure she doesn't know where it all went. But I donated, or I burned, and I did cut a lot up for rag rugs, so we do that too. But that closet got empty, but she don't really know where it went to. A lot of people donated clothes to this family being big, and it was just, we played with a lot of it. It was a lot of play clothes. A lot of dress up this we did with it. We had a lot of fun with it, but it was just, I was determined to get that closet cleaned out, and I got it cleaned out.
Sarah and Roland Sepula. We've been married 42 years. We live in South Carolina, and we lived here in Minnesota for
15, 16 years in this area. And we've been in South Carolina now for
23 years.
Okay.
24 years. We farmed here. We had a dairy farm and farmed here for a number of years and then moved to South Carolina. I knew her brother in New Hampshire. I grew up in New Hampshire and he was there working, and he asked me to take him to Boston to pick up his sister at the airport. So that was the first time that I met her. But I was good friends with Murph, so we saw quite a bit of each other. It was a Christmas break.
Yeah, Christmas break for me, yeah. I was a senior in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And we were married a year later.
Yeah, we got married young. She had just turned 19 and I wasn't quite 19.
I think I said before we have 9 children and 22 grandchildren.
I'm a builder. I build houses. I grew up in New Hampshire doing construction, commercial construction, and then from there into farming, and then farming back into construction.
And then my brother David is married to your first cousin, too. So, Wanda
and Calvin. Cal. I go by Cal. Had to be 1984 sometime. What was the date?
Well, we probably met earlier than that because you lived in New Ipswich since 1982.
I moved to New Ipswich in 82. Yeah, so it would have been somewhere between 82.
Between 82 and then we started dating in 84.
Yeah.
And we're married in 85.
Well, yeah, and then we're celebrating our 35th wedding anniversary, October 5th. So that's why it's worked out good. I'm a builder, and then my wife helps me out with that. She's kind of the designer, and she does a little bit of cleaning on the side. I still don't know how to play kick the can, so I'm not sure. I can't remember what the object of the game was, to be honest with you.
You play football every Sunday in Wolf Lake.
Yeah, we play a little ball. Yeah. I would say probably the thing I used to go to Hank Johnson's just about every night. He's a good buddy of mine. I think he was like age 78 or 80 years old. And I used to go over there to watch TV, and that was kind of my basically almost nightly event. You know, had a lot of fun growing up. It's something that I would say I really cherished. I mean, we'd had opportunities that other people never will experience. You know, so kind of a funny story growing up. I remember we had a place where we used to hang out. It was called the Shack. And I remember one summer evening, we were waiting for some people to come from the East Coast. And then what happened, we actually fell asleep. We all fell asleep. There was a bunch of boys and girls in the bed there, and we fell asleep. And about probably 2:30 in the morning, my mom woke us up and chased us out of the house. It was a neighboring house that one of the brothers owned. And man, I was just scared out of my wits. I got an 80 Yamaha. Just took off home with that thing. I almost tipped it over on the way home. Got home and I said, "Boy, we're going to be in trouble." And I never heard a thing about it. She was such a nice lady. She never raised her voice around us or anything like that. So we went back to school in the fall, and I remember first period teacher would say something like, "Think of something that was really cool or really interesting that happened this summer on your summer vacation." We all had vacation, and I just couldn't think of anything. So I went home and I told my mom. I said, I'm trying to think of something really that I thought was really funny or something that really was interesting that happened this summer. And my mom says, "Well, why don't you tell them about the time that I came and got you from the shack and chased you home?" So she says, "I thought that was pretty funny." So, anyway, that's a pretty cool story.
Andrew Farry.
I'm Ruth Farry.
So we met on the West Coast. She came out for a friend of hers' wedding. Met briefly when she came to her brother Melvin and Calvin's, they had a house that was for sale. And us single guys were living there. And then later on, the following winter, Calvin, her brother, was going home for Christmas. And he suggested, why don't you come home for Christmas with me to Minnesota? I'm going there. I thought about that. Well, that's weird. Don't have Christmas with my own family, but go over there. He said, yeah, but we can go snowmobiling and there's a bunch of stuff we can do. And I had never been out there, and I had been hearing Calvin and Mel talk about this area here for years already. So I decided to go see what it was about. So off we went, and we arrived here. And she was living in Wadena with Susan and Sandy, and they all had jobs where we were going to school.
Yeah.
They all had jobs in town. So Cal and I went and visited there. And then there was an attraction there, and that was that. And then she ended up, her other brothers, Mark and Dave, had a business in New Hampshire, and they needed a bookkeeper really, really bad because they were expanding. And so she agreed to leave here and move out to New Hampshire, and I was out there by then, back out there. And she came out there and we started dating. 36?
Well, we got married in 84. So whatever that means. 36 years. 6 kids later.
What's that?
It was just a big family that we've always had a good time with and enjoy coming home. But
Told me about her dad taking them swimming when it was real hot over to Osage.
Osage, yes, that's right. We always had a water.
And they would stop and buy some candy, nothing extravagant. And then maybe once a week go grocery shopping, and there would be candy in there, and that would go first.
Yep, one candy bag. Yep.
And they can remember maybe 12 people in a car, not worrying about seat belts, sitting on each other's
There
laps.
was a Jenny.
And sometimes the back seat would be out and there'd be a calf back there.
That's true.
And all kinds of mischief on the farm that at one point or another, each of them got caught by their dad.
And Dad never liked us breaking windows.
Swift discipline. If you broke a window, that was the worst
Offense.
thing you could do, because then that meant he had to stop what he was doing on the farm, go to town, get a new piece of glass, come back.
And glaze it all up and put it together.
Yep.
We're gonna tell Asa.
And then they had to sleep 5-6 people to a bed.
With the upstairs was with the older kids, and we all just dove into bed. I think there were anywhere from 5 to 7 of us when we were little. Just climbed in. My oldest brother, Armis, graduated a day or two after I was born, and that was Mom's first son graduating, and I understood I was at that graduation. So yeah, when I was born, the older ones were starting to disperse already. So then the bedrooms just started filling up, and everybody, when one moved out, the next one went up. Yeah. So I was in school one day, and somebody says, "What the order of your class or your family?" And I said, "She goes, oh yeah, I mean you could be 1 out of 2, or maybe 15 out of 20, or whatever." And I sat there and I went, I am number 15 out of 20 kids. And I didn't dare tell her that, but yeah, I'm number 15. I used to work for a construction company, my brother Mel, and then about 3 or 4 years ago, and I went on my own as a real estate agent. So yeah, all we did was laugh. We played a lot, and yeah, we fought too, but always laughing, and very, very good memories here. Yeah, and the cousins would come over on the weekends and kick the can, and yeah, that was a big fun thing. That I guess you'd have to go hide, and whoever can get to the can, kicking it without somebody who was it, I guess. I can't remember how it went for sure, but we did play a lot of that. And you'd always run into every once in a while they'd yell and say there's a skunk out there, so you'd all come running back in. But yeah, we played a lot of that. And in the wintertime we had the
the barn loft. They'd get up there and play basketball. We'd climb up there, and all the neighbor kids would come over. Or actually, there'd be cousins. Play Sunday evenings, and yeah. So, but actually, the biggest thing I think we went usually every Sunday afternoon. We would go to the big farm, and we would play football with all the cousins on the front yard, and it was a lot of fun. I was probably the littlest one there, but I was pretty fast, and they'd always throw the ball to me, and I'd catch it somehow and keep going. So, yeah. I don't know. They'd always say, "Catch it in the bread basket, Ruth." And so, they would be, "Rudy, Rudy." So, yeah. Actually, I was the only one that didn't marry a Finnish man. The pastor said, "It's about time we get some new blood in the family." So, so yeah, we have very good memories here. Yeah, he's Irish and Scottish. Yeah. But we spent a week in Finland and got to meet a few people there, and it was a great time. We went there on a trip. There was a group of about 10 of us that went, and it reminded me a lot of Wolf Lake area. And the food is great, and everywhere you went, they'd feed you. Very hospitable. They don't say much, but once you get together, you can. But it was a lot of fun. Dad would try to teach us every Sunday morning on the Oppinen is what he called it, and I can pronounce them. I really understand nothing but the bad words. So, I mean, I can understand a little bit of it, but I'm not fluent at all. I was right on the cutoff. That's not very good. It says ABC chicken stinks. When we grew up, no matter who drove into the driveway, I don't care if it was the person driving the grader or the guy that was selling siding or anybody, they'd come running in, get some coffee on and coffee or cookies or something, and they always had to feed somebody. And there was always, when somebody was here, you'd feed them. And we did a lot of cooking and baking in this house, so yeah. Oh, the Schwann's person. Oh my goodness. That guy I think he loved coming here. I mean, those big gallons, those big things, a couple of them. A big bowl of ice cream before you went to bed that was the ticket, yeah.
You should tell her what we had for dinner on Sunday afternoon. Christmas Eve. Was our dinner on Christmas Eve.
Oh, lutefisk?
Yeah, we had lutefisk every Christmas.
Oh, the house smelled really bad, but we had to go get that lutefisk, and it was on baked potatoes, white gravy, and lutefisk. And then somehow there's always this biggest box of oranges that ended up here somehow, and we would eat that a lot. Yeah, I have to tell you one story. I wanted to go bowling one Saturday night, and my mom says, "You're not going," because my cousins were picking me up from Wolf Lake. She goes, "Well, you can't go until you do one thing," and that was I had to learn to slaughter a chicken, gut it out, pick all the feathers off, gut it out, bring it in the house, and she taught me how to cut and quarter, and I put the whole chicken up, so I had to do 3 of those, and I learned because I wanted to go bowling. Yeah, no, that was a Saturday night. Mom would get 3 chickens on the counter and in this great big pan, and she would get up in the morning and she'd fry that chicken up, and then she'd bake it and go to church. And you never knew who was coming home for church, because whoever was there, Dad would invite, and she'd come home and she'd feed them, and then she'd make 3 blueberry pies.
And yeah, I'm the third from the youngest family, so I have 4. I have 3 adopted children and then 1 of my own. When did they meet? They met in 1989. So, and then we got married a year later in 1990. So, yeah. Her sister is married to my brother. So, I think the first time we met is at my brother's house. So, yeah. I milked cows for almost 40 years, a dairy farmer, and then I sold the cows about a year ago. So I've been just working now for my brother Melvin, so here. So yeah, I do a lot of hunting and fishing. I enjoy that. Oh, I don't know. There's many crazy stories, but there used to be a sauna right there, a small sauna next to the smoke shack there. Boy, that thing got hot. I mean, oh man. It was just a little small wood stove, but man, you'd come out of there just like you burnt to death there. A lot of, whatever big family like that, there's so many things that, you could write a book on it. Well, I had a great upbringing and so on. I come from a Christian home and Christian values, and they were really strong in their faith, and they brought that to their children and made sure that you married a Christian mate, and so they were. So I had good memories of my home life. They were just a great role model. My parents, and I never seen them argue or fight, which don't seem really right. Don't seem really right. But I knew there was something off a little bit. Then Dad would quietly, walk to the barn or something, but they never showed it to the children, and I think the rest of them could verify that too. So it was kind of children and so on. We learn more from what is caught, more so than what is taught. And that's kind of what they were a good example to all of the children and to me.
I am Sandra. I am the baby girl of Rachel and Linda. I have 11 children. Emma, Jamina, Matt, Sophie, Andrew, Louisa, Jalen, Clara, Mia, Asher, and Taria. I'm married to Roger Hunter, and we lived in New Hampshire for 22 years and then moved to South Carolina, and we've been down there for 13 years. I work at a college. I run a little coffee shop restaurant type off of the college. It is called Boar's Head. We do well. My sister Sarah does the coffee shop, and I do the Boar's Head, which makes sandwiches for the college kids. Yeah, and this is where I grew up. Although graduated here and headed to New Hampshire, lived there, and went on to South Carolina. So, yeah, this right here is still home to me, even though I've been in other states. Because I was one of the younger ones, I wasn't demanded to milk cows, but I did go and help wash the milkers and spent a lot of time in the barn, both barns. That one that we played with the cats up there, and the dogs and whatever, and the pigs were on the end of that one out. So there's quite a few animals here when we were growing up. So we spent a lot of time outside. But it feels good to come home. Because her birthday was 2 days ago, and all of us couldn't quite, well, we wanted to have the public to have a chance to celebrate her birthday, and now we're going to celebrate it, just the kids. And just the kids, 18 kids and their spouses is still a big crew to host. So yeah, it will be fun. It's always fun when you get together, because it seems like time plus disaster is laughter. All those disasters we had at home, we always reminisce about them and have a good time talking about them. So I can't wait to this. I have a good time with brothers and sisters. I got by with the most, and all the brothers and sisters will say that baby girl got her way every time. So, and I know I did. And my children have gone to events and met up with distant relatives or even first cousins and not even known that they're their first cousins, because there's so many of them. No, my children will get Christmas cards and they'll say, I don't know who this is. They don't know who it is. So this was really like cool that my kids will be able to know who their aunts and uncles are now. So hopefully you'll get all of them. And I think it's about 22, 23 years, somewhere there from the oldest to the youngest. And there too, by the time I was born, the older ones were already gone. So I'm actually closer to my nieces and nephews because they were out and already had children. So my oldest niece is 4 years younger than me, and 20 some years older, the older brothers, so brother and sister. So I didn't really get to know them until after I got married and came back and visited with them. So know them like on a personal level. But now you the ones right in your age groups, those are the ones that we've had a lot of fun together. There was never a dull moment. It was kick the can every night just about, or hide and go seek, or so we always played together. So we had a lot of fun. And there's times that you got mad at each other and fought too, but I guess thinking come back here, it brings happy memories to me. So Dad had a memory of an encyclopedia. Just he said when I put it in my file, I never forgot it, and literally never forgot it, and all the way to the very, very end at 95. So you could ask him he was born in 1919, and he said from 1925-ish, he knew what the weather was every year. He just had an incredible memory. And I don't have it.
My name is Terry, and that's my wife Renee.
Renee.
We actually met
Church convention.
Yeah. Religious background that was encouraged to me at church conventions to keep in the same doctrine or faith, quite frankly. That's why it's done that way. I'm a house builder, land developer. You need to find their families in construction or farming. I brought the first TV in the house. Boy, that'd have been 1980 something. But I brought it, that was against the rules to have a TV, so I brought it in there with a big box wrapped as a Christmas gift. I had to have a TV already in it. And we watch it, keep the door locked. They had a system that stuff it in the closet real fast and somebody was coming. Everything there was to watch, there was nothing spared.
What were your favorite shows?
Dry and Woody and, Quincy and cop shows and stuff like that. 1980s shows. You still watch them on. Still my favorite show is Seinfeld. I like watching that. That was a little later, but I remember the shack. I don't know. That was just the old house that they started living in more like in the summertime, and they had a refrigerator in there and whatever, and they had pop and they smoked cigarettes and whatever they did. It was just, teenage and independence to get out of the house and get over there. That's all it was, really.
Is that where you smoked the fish? Skip school one day?
Yeah, my brother Amish, my oldest brother Amish, I think that smokehouse is still there over there. We skipped school to spear suckers, and then I know we got a pile of them, and then we got them all ready, and I put them smoking in there, and I don't think that this day we've told anybody that, but that smokehouse caught on fire, and it was burning in that creosote, and it was really hard to get it out. Water wouldn't stop the thing, so I think we started throwing sand and everything in there and ruined all our fish. We never told anybody about that. I remembered something like that. So we finally got the fire out, and I don't know if everybody's ever looked at it, but that smokehouse is burnt at the bottom pretty good. But it's been a nice time here. I really enjoyed it, and so far I thought my brother Jake had a really, really nice prayer. And I think mainly I'd say that because those were my thoughts exactly. Like if I was talking here, I would say exactly what this guy is saying. And so it's really moving, and it was really, really good. And the singing is nice, and I really appreciate the beautiful singing, because I can't sing. I don't think any of the boys can sing, but some of the girls can sing, so it's a really cool thing that they can.
When my life work is ended and I cross the swelling tide, when the bright and glorious morning I shall see, I shall know my Redeemer when I reach the other side, and His smile will be the first to welcome me. I shall know Him, I shall know Him, as redeemed by His side I shall stand. I shall know Him, I shall know Him, by the print of the nails in His hands. Oh, the soul-thrilling rapture when I view His blessed face, and the luster of His kindly beaming eyes. How my full heart will praise Him for the mercy, love, and grace that prepares for me a mansion in the sky. I shall know Him, I shall know Him, as redeemed by His side I shall stand. I shall know Him, I shall know Him, by the print of the nails in His hand. Oh, the dear ones in glory, how they beckon me to come, and our parting at the river I recall. Through the sweet hills of Eden they will sing my welcome home, but I long to meet my Savior first of all. I shall know Him, I shall know Him, as redeemed by His side I shall stand. I shall know Him, I shall know Him, by the print of the nails in His hands. Through the gates to the city in a robe of spotless white, He will lead me where no tears shall ever fall. In the glad song of ages I shall mingle with delight, but I long to meet my Savior first of all. I shall know Him, I shall know Him, as redeemed by His side I shall stand. I shall know Him, I shall know Him, by the print of the nails in His hand. I shall know Him, I shall know Him, as redeemed by His side I shall stand. I shall know Him, I shall know Him, by the print of the nails in His hands.
You can take two things. You could take this spiritual thing and this body thing. I mean, physical part.
Mm-hmm.
That's two different things, and if you get to be a Christian and you get out of the devil's power, that's probably the most important thing to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you get married, that was a pretty good remember. That was that was kind of a change of life too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You know that.
Oh yeah.
You have to start pleasing the other person too. You couldn't always please yourself. Otherwise, marriage don't work that way.
Yeah.
If you don't start pleasing your wife too. I always say that we have to give, just like when a storm comes. Those trees, if they wouldn't give anything, they would cut off. They give a little bit. And same way in a marriage life, a man and a husband has to give a little bit. You can't.
Otherwise, you'll get cut off.
Yeah, otherwise, the marriage life is no good anymore.
Yeah.
It's cut off. It's fight.
Till dess sabbat så